Probably more than any other single book of the Christian Bible, the book of Revelations is something that really just gets people's interest and gets them talking, and people get to theorizing and try to understand it. And that's fine. I mean, that's great. I think that's what we ought to be doing in life with a lot of things. I think that it's really fun to play with. I like playing with it myself. But I think it's also really important to recognize it's an interesting exercise to try to understand it and try to interpret it. But we really need to push certainty out, because that's where we end up making mistakes, making fools of ourselves, like all the people who done predicted the end of the world in years past. And here we are, right? That's like predicting a bunch of people are going to get arrested and then they don't. That sort of thing, right? So rather than make predictions, we are going to just try to understand some things, okay? We're going to try to just read what's there in the book of Revelation and in the book of the world, the book of creation, right? And we're going to try to understand what's there, because I believe, spoiler alert, I believe we're headed for some serious tribulation and not a victory dance like many people have been hoping, myself hoping, but many other people really truly believing and being invested in that. And I think that that's dangerous, and so that's one of the reasons I wanted to get into this. And those of us that don't need a reality check maybe just need a little nudge to be like, yeah, you're not the only one who sees it, right? So one of the things about Revelation that's challenging is we've got to try to figure out what has and hasn't happened, right? And I think that that's actually really tough. We talk about tribulation, hard times, persecution, and all of that. These things have already happened. If you were a Cathar, which was a Christian that had a different set of beliefs than what the Catholic Church was willing to put up with back in the 12th, 13th century, if you were a Cathar living in France, well, you probably thought that you were living through the hard times, the tribulation, the end times, the persecution, right? You probably thought that the beast with 7 crowns was the church, right? The harlot sitting upon the 7 hills of Rome, right? You probably thought that. Maybe you were right. I don't know. It's not for me to say. But you would have had many reasons to look at the book of Revelation and say, wow, look, this is what's going on. They were talking about what's happening right now. Look, we're being persecuted and burned alive, and our castles destroyed, our homes taken from us. This beast that has the kings of the earth bowing to it is doing this to us. Again, maybe they were wrong, maybe they were right. But the point is, that happened to them. Now it's over. And here we are. So maybe it's cyclical. Maybe these great tribulations and these dark times, these times of persecution and darkness, maybe this is cyclical, right? The Hindus have their Kali Yuga, right? The concept of these periods of time that come around. And one of them is a very dark age of ignorance and death and destruction and suffering. They call it the Kali Yuga, and it comes periodically, right? Maybe that's what's going on. We had Enoch, and then his great-grandson Noah. Things were so bad in the world at that point that arguably God came and sent destruction and got rid of a bunch of giants and other crazy creatures that were running around. Cleaned up a mess, right? Cleaned up a mess with a bunch of death and destruction, and then a new beginning comes after that. So again, maybe it's cyclical. Maybe these are things that we should expect are going to happen periodically. Something to consider, rather than looking at the book of Revelation and thinking like we know how it goes and this is a one-way street. Food for thought, folks. Food for thought. Because again, many people have tried to interpret and plot it out and say how and when things are going to happen, and they're just demonstrably wrong. And then other people, like I said, we're living at a time and experiencing things that they look in the book and they're like, man, this is exactly what's happening. But, here we are, right? The world hasn't ended. Something to think about. But if this is cyclical, or if this is still stuff that has to play out, what's coming down the pipe? That's what I'm interested in, right? That as interested as I am in history, I'm pretty much really interested in the present. As they say, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, and today is a gift, which is why they call it the present. Looking at Revelation chapter 6, we've got all kinds of juicy things that are supposed to be taking place, right? We've got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. War and famine and death and a false prophet. We move forward to chapter 6, verse 9 through 11. You've got the saints lamenting, "How long, O Lord? We have suffered and we're being persecuted. How long?" Wondering how long God was going to allow the awful things that are going on to continue. I hear much of the same talk today, but I would say to you, it can get a lot worse. Save your lamentations. They may be premature. If you know anything about his story for the modern era, it's a gruesome story, right? And there are good people that have been hung upside down and cut in half, okay? All kinds of nasty stuff happens to people, all right? And we got to get real. Nasty stuff happens to good people all the time. You want to avoid that? You better get tough. Mind, body, and spirit, right? That's going to take action. We move forward to chapter 8 in Revelations. You read about the destruction of land and sea. This is going to impact what? Obviously lives directly, but also it's going to affect food supply, which is going to then affect lives down the line, right? So, how many of these things play into one another? What order are they supposed to happen? What has already happened? What has not happened? It's not for me to say. It's not for you to say. Whether it's coming or it's come before and it's going to come again, right? The cyclical thing, one way or another, I believe very strongly. This is why I'm sharing it. We've got some very, very serious devastation coming. Many people are going to end up dying, I would say. Then the question is, who survives, right? Because that's the thing. People talk about, well, I know we win in the end and good wins in the end. And yeah, all right. But are you among them? And that's really what I want to get into here. Are you among them? Will you be among them? Because you don't need to be. That's the thing, is you don't need to be. I've got a parable for you. Ready? Once upon a time in the great city of Babylon, there was a director. And this director hired actors to come and help be in a production that he was making. And the actors, from the great to the small, were very excited and they felt very honored. Wow, we have a place in this. We have a role in this. Whoopee, the great director wants us to be a part of it. He's placed us here in his great work. Wants us to play a role. And some of them weren't studying their lines, and some of them weren't getting into shape for the role that they had to play, and some of them weren't learning what they had to do and the movements and the choreography. They weren't doing what they needed to do, is the bottom line. And so the director saw this and dismissed a bunch of them. Some major players and very, very many minor ones, and just dismissed them all, sent them away. And the people that he sent away were confused. They thought, wow, we had a place in that. We were part of that. How could this be? How could it go on without us? Because they saw that it was going on without them, right? New actors stepped in. The director got new actors that were willing to do what they had to do, and the show went on. Because the show must go on, right? So that parable is intended to illustrate something to everyone that's going on today. You've got the great movie playing out, the great drama playing out, and the great director directing it. And he, she, it has placed people in certain positions to play certain roles. But what many people have failed to recognize and respect is that the role exists without you. The show can and will go on without you. If you don't do what you're supposed to be doing, you can be replaced. You are not critical to this drama. I realize that is an inconvenient truth for many people, because many people would really like to just kind of sit back and eat the popcorn and watch the show, but that's not how it's supposed to be, folks. You're supposed to be part of it, which means you've got work to do, specifically on yourself. Because once again, who makes it through this? Who wins in the end? We, but you may not be a part of them if you don't do what you're supposed to do. And many of us are complacent. Many of us are failing to recognize that we are meant to be active here on earth, active agents of the Creator. Those of us that would like to be part of this and make it through this to the other side, we need to be patient and we need to be active. If you take a look at Revelations 13:10, and also 14:12, you will see references to the patience of the saints. So there are to be saintly people. Now what is that? Those are people that are really acting and living and speaking and doing, really actually being fingers of God here on earth as they're meant to be. They get to make it through. They get blessings heaped upon them. Then once again, this is a call to action for you, because there's much for us to do. The simplest action is just when you hear something in one of these videos that you think is valuable, link it at the time, send it to people who you think will benefit from it, right? Even that is too much for some people. But I'm not just talking about that keyboard warrior, which is still important, but I'm talking about working on yourself and making yourself as powerful as possible. The Creator doesn't have any use for powerless people, right? Jesus may want to protect the meek and the weak, but was Jesus powerless? Okay? You may have been humble and meek, but no one would call him powerless, huh? You feel what I'm saying here? You need to get powerful. You want to be a finger of God. You want to be a saint. You want to make it through this. You want to be part of the we that wins in the end, right? Because a whole lot of people are headed for their graves, folks. Headed for the graves. They don't even know it. The walking dead. I look at them every day. And I want as many of you good people to be on the other side. Saints, if you will. I want as many of you good people to be on the other side as possible. So you got to get clear. This biotechnology that you've been given, this is the most incredible technology on earth. And it was made for us by our Creator. How many of you are more familiar with how to operate electronic devices, whether it be a phone or a television or whatever? How many of you are more familiar with how to operate that and the do's and the don'ts and all of that than with your own earth suit that you were given by your Creator to explore this prime material plane? Because this is the best equipment that we've got, right? These Satanists are out there building up AI and artificial bodies and all of this other stuff. They want to take whatever it is that they think that they are and put it into an artificial body. Maybe you know about some of this stuff, but they've got these wild ideas about how to basically live forever. They're after eternal life, but they're trying to do it their way, which is by definition satanic, nah? What I'm telling you is that there are going to be super creatures on this earth. Arguably, there already are. Some are going to be artificial, created by man, satanic. And others are going to be natural. They're going to become super through natural processes that the good Lord put out there and that we have yet to really fully embrace and discover. Recognize that you've been given incredible technology. This is a biological machine that God has created and given to you to use to run around here and do stuff on His behalf. You got to learn what to put in it and what not to put in it, right? Like if you got a car, you're not going to pour antifreeze into the gas tank. No, you know better. You know what'll happen. You wouldn't want to do that to your car. Why are you pouring, crazy stuff in? Okay? Feel what I'm saying here? You might call it sacrilege. The body is the temple of the Spirit that you were given. Don't defile it. I'm not sitting here telling you can't do anything fun, right? I'm not sitting here, never smoke, never drink, never eat a ho-ho. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you want to take care of this. You want to strengthen it. You want to become powerful, mind, body, and spirit. There are ways of doing that. Simple stuff that most of y'all know about. I'm not going to get into it now. Exercise and nutrition, super basic. But let's take it to the next level, huh? Before I go down that alley, let me just touch upon one thing. A stumbling block for many good people who consider themselves to be spiritual and religious. Don't make the mistake of looking at things that you're not familiar with and just walling it off, right? You're putting your mind and putting God in a box. Specifically, I'm talking about the approaches to using this body technology and improving it that you might call yoga or meditation or qigong or any of these other different esoteric schools of thought, right? Esoteric is just like inner, right? As opposed to exo, right? Exoteric. Occult is not negative. It's got negative connotations in people's mind, but occult just means hidden, right? Like, when you have an eclipse, right? A solar eclipse, you say that the sun has been occulted by the moon. Occult knowledge is just hidden knowledge. There is much occult knowledge out there that we should be looking into. Not without caution because there's dark, bad stuff, but specifically because there's a lot of wonderful, powerful stuff that has been hidden from us by the Dark Lord simply by saying that it's bad. Okay? Well, you think every preacher that gets up and interprets God's word is really a servant of the Creator? You don't think that a serpent ever gets up on the podium and tries to mislead people? Come on now. I can make a nice list of the televised prophets and preachers that have squarely planted their faces in the manure with their behavior, okay? Even though they had honeyed words. So don't get to thinking that because you heard from somebody that you should stay away from all of that Eastern mysticism stuff. It's all of the devil. Nah, it's a lie. I'm telling you now. Because I've searched far and wide without borders, okay? I was one of those people that went into the land of there is no God, and if there is, I hate him, okay? So I've gone there and I've come back. And I've seen almost everything there is to see along the way. And I'm telling you, the things with value I picked up and I took with me, okay? And I brought them right back home to my Creator, okay? And I found out that they were just jewels that he had scattered and other people had tried to hide under dung heaps and things of that nature, okay? But I done found them and washed the poop off, okay? That's what you got to do. You want to look into these alternative approaches to strengthening the spirit, okay? Yoga and Qigong and other types of energy work, right? Because it's all just energy if you think about it. You turn the burner on a stove and that flame hits the metal, which is a good conductor of energy, right? Heat and electricity. And then that energy transfers from the metal into your soup and it heats it up. There's nothing mystical or demonic or satanic or magical or anything like that. It's just science, folks. Remember what I was saying in one of my previous videos? When God does stuff, he does it scientifically and according to a natural process because God created science and nature. That's it. That's all I'm talking about. So you've got this energy system here, and the Hindus, they call them chakras, right? Yoga calls them chakras. It really doesn't matter what you call them. They're energy centers. I'm going to prove it to you. And just remember that God created this and gave this to you, and you need to learn how to use this because this is your power. God didn't give you this body for nothing. So I want you to, let's just take it down a notch, right? You know I get fired up. Get in touch with your heart. The heart, although is a physical organ that the West recognizes, it is also a location of energy, a locus of energy, a chakra that Eastern energetic medicine, if you want to call it that, recognizes. And I'm going to show you how you can get in touch with it. You got to visualize, you got to put yourself, you have to essentially create a reality inside of yourself. Bring someone to mind that you really, really love dearly. It should be someone that you love dearly without any complications. So young people are really good for this sort of thing. Children or grandchildren, whatever the case may be. There's usually no baggage associated with that kind of loving relationship. And you just think to yourself, feel it. Don't just think it, feel it. Feel what it's like to have that young person jump into your arms and squeeze you with their little arms around the neck, and they're warm, and you can feel their feet hanging right around your thighs, you know, and maybe they giggle or something because your chin or your hair or whatever tickles them, right? That feeling of your child or your grandchild in your arms, and the sun is on you and it's a beautiful day and the breeze. How does your heart feel? Feel that. If you did it right, you felt something in your heart. It's just energy. Love is energy. You know, people say, well, love is the most powerful force in the world. What is force? What is force? It's just energy. Magnetic force, energy. Kinetic force, energy. Okay. Got to break down the barriers. You think the Dark Lord didn't try to put your mind and your God in a box? What else is he here for, huh? He's not eating ho-hos? Well, maybe he is, but he's probably making the ho-hos. Satanic artificial food, right? But I digress. So you definitely need to, if you're not already, you need to turn your heart and your mind toward these things that you don't have experience with. Energetic medicine, energetic development, channeling your energy to heal, calling down divine energy to empower you to do things. And we use that power to safeguard those that are close to us, those that are brought into our orbit. Okay, because there are going to be many of us leading many others through dark times. God needs saints. God needs warriors, mind, body, and spirit, strong and wise, aware of their capabilities, not afraid to look into the darkness for something valuable. Right? Only a neophyte really needs to watch out for looking into occulted knowledge. But once you're clear, once you're straight, once you know what you're here for, where you come from and what your responsibilities are, and also what you're not, honestly, not that hard. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay? I give you Matthew 24:24. And I'm going to just read this because I think people have lost sight of this. And this isn't just for Christians. This is really for anybody. These books, these holy books have so much wisdom. You got to take the wisdom where it comes. Matthew 24:24. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and they shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. I don't know if I'm one of the very elect. I don't know if you're one of the very elect. But I do know that deception is ancient, and the deceivers are very good at what they do. And we done been warned by Jesus. I think a great many of us have been deceived. We've been given hope where we ought not place hope. We've been given expectations where we ought not have expectations. And then our own minds and our own desire for the easy way has filled in the rest with fantasy. It's better to lose your illusion now while there's still time than to recognize too late that it was death and destruction coming and not the quick fix that you were hoping for and told to expect. Search your heart. Don't just believe me, search your heart. But I tell you that I have searched my heart, and all I can say is that I felt compelled to share with you all that we are headed for very dark times. The things that are going on now are not going to stop. They're going to get worse before they get better. This whole great reset and everything that's going to come with it, it's all going down. Look, it's going down. You're not going to stop it. I'm not going to stop it. And that's okay. Because the wheel's going to keep on turning. Just, I want to be in a good place as it turns. Presumably so do you. So work on this technology. Refine it. Make yourself better. Make yourself stronger. Make yourself wiser. You want to do the best that you can. And that's part of following God's plan for you, right? To know yourself and know your Creator, and therefore discern what it is that you ought to be doing and do it well. From here, we'll get focused on our own individual lives and our own individual actions, things that we can do to be part of this ongoing story.